Welcome back, everybody. Today we'll be discussing the superficial muscles of the back. First off, I wanted to say I think you've all come this far now, the second round of anatomy exams at the University of at the Medical University of Wrocław. I have been gone for some time because I had some exams, but now I'm back. So let's just dive into this. The superficial back muscles that I am aware of are 5 of them, and I'm going to discuss them here on the model very quickly. And so first, I'm going to start with the trapezius muscle. And just to let you know that superficial means the most external. Back is found in this region. And so the first one we're going to discuss is the trapezius, and it has 2 halves, one on the left and one on the right. And so isolated, we can see how it courses around the upper part of the back. And so in what we see here, it has descending, transverse, and ascending fibers, and it's so made up of 3 parts. And so the origin of each segment is very different. So for the descending, which is this part right here, the origin is from the external occipital protuberance, the ligamentum nuchal, so nuchal line, and the spinous process. And then the transverse is from the aponeurosis of the spinous process, and the ascending ones from here, from the spinous process of T5 to T12. Okay, and so the spinous processes of every sector of the vertebrae here are very important. So you guys have to know exactly so that you know what you're describing. Insertions, and so they're very different. For the descending one is it inserts on the lateral 1/3 of the clavicle, as you guys see here. So that's the clavicle, and that's the lateral 1/3. The transverse on the medial side of the acromion process. You guys can see that this is the acromion process of the scapula. And finally, the ascending one, the spinous process, the upper crest and the tubercle of the scapular spine. So you see that the scapular spine is right here somewhere and extends across this region right here. And so it inserts on the upper crest and the tubercle of the scapular spine. That's the trapezius muscle. So if we can see, these are the regions that it touches and inserts onto. And so all the colored spots, and you can see right here, these are the spinous processes as we have discussed earlier. Okay, that's the first muscle. Secondly, I'm going to hide this. We see and expose 2 sides, and so we're going to discuss 3 muscles right now. First off, the Levator Scapulae, left and right. And so if we go in here and we see how it originates, so it would originate from the transfer process of the vertebrae C1 to C4. You guys can see here, they're labeled in red. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the origin. And so the insertion is on the superior angle of the medial border of the scapula. Right here, that's the insertion. Right there. Origin, insertion. Okay, and so the muscle mainly, it would elevate the scapula. Okay. Let me just go back here. I want to show you what innervates the trapezius muscle. So if we go here, and so I forgot to mention that the trapezius muscle is innervated by the accessory nerve. Just to let you guys know that the actions of the trapezius is very closely related with the scapula motion of the scapula mainly, like retraction, rotation, elevation, okay? Because it really attaches and inserts in this region right here, okay? We're gonna hide it. The levator scapulae, on the other hand, it's innervated by the dorsal scapular nerve. And if you know, this comes from the brachial plexus. Okay, and so it elevates the scapula and involved in flexing the head and the neck laterally. But we can also see how it elevates the shoulder right there. You can see that the scapula is part of the shoulder, or it would cause this motion. Okay, that's the levator scapulae. Now we're going to go to the rhomboid minor and the rhomboid major on the left and on the right. The specifics of its origin and insertion. It originates from the spinal process of C7 to T1. Okay. And the inferior ligament nuchae, so the nuchal line, basically, and it will insert onto the medial margin of the scapula, right here. That's so you can see the muscle. That's the rhomboid minor. Okay. Nerve supply is the dorsal scapular nerve, same as the levator scapulae. So both, although the three of them actually, the levator scapulae, the minor, and the major are innervated by the dorsal scapular nerve. And so the action, of course, is mainly on the scapula, and it's basically stabilization, retraction, elevation, and rotation of the scapula. Okay. And you can see what it does. That's the action of these muscles. Okay. Now we're gonna go into the major. So if you isolate it, you can see it right here. That's the major. And so for the major, it originates from the spinal processes of the vertebrae T2 to T5 and inserts on the medial margin of the scapula inferior to the spine here. So the action, stabilization, retraction, elevation, and internal rotation of the scapula, nerve supply by the dorsal scapular nerve. Sorry, I want to show you what actions it does, and that's just basically the same as the rhomboid minor. Okay, so now we've gone over 4. Now we have 1 left from the superficial, and that's the levator, the latissimus dorsi. So left and right, and so I'm going to isolate that and see how it goes, and it has a close relation with the humerus. And so let's go. It originates from the inferior angle of the scapula, right there, number 1, the 9th to 12th rib, the spinous process of T7 to T12, right here, sorry, from T7 to T12, right there, and the thoracolumbar fascial, okay, and the posterior 1/3 of the iliac crest, right here. And so if we, that's the insertion of it into the humerus, but I want to show you that's the fascia, I think, that we're talking about, called the thoracolumbar fashion. Okay. And so it is innervated by the thoracodorsal nerve. All right. And it inserts into the crest of the lesser tubercle of the humerus and the intertubercular groove. That's the insertion. Okay. So the actions, you can see that it has some control over the arm, causes adduction of the arm. It also causes medial rotation of the arm. Okay. and retraction of the scapula. There, because it attached to the scapula right here. All right, on the inferior angle, actually. And so this is basically the superficial muscles of the back, and they're made up of 5: trapezius, levator scapulae, rhomboid minor, rhomboid major, latissimus dorsi. I hope this video was useful, and I'm going to see you guys in the next one.